Hello students, in my last session, I had discussed about what is the essence of ethics, what is ethics, which mean what ought to be done and what ought not to be done, right? I had discussed about what are the various determinants of ethics. There were certain internal determinants, there were certain external determinants in the ethical decision making. Now, the third thing we discussed about the consequences of ethics or ethical decision making, which we saw in environmental ethics, which we saw in international ethics. The fourth thing we discussed was the dimensions of the ethics. Now, this was the most essential part of the last class, and in my board PDF, I have already mentioned various ethical theories, right? So in this fourth dimensional part, I had discussed about meta ethics, right? I have discussed about descriptive ethics, I had discussed about prescriptive ethics, and fourth, I had discussed about the applied form of ethics. So the last two were important over here, right? In the prescriptive or the normative part of ethics, you are going to pick up those theory and learn to apply those theory while answer writing. We had discussed the consequentialist approach, we had discussed the deontologist approach, we had discussed virtue ethics, right? We had discussed teleology, right? We also discussed about the utilitarianists, okay? And then we discussed about the ethics in public life and ethics in private life. So please understand of that 2 hours of lecture, the most important one was the dimension of ethics. Again, please write the daily answer writing session. I have already given you the question on the essence of ethics, where I'm asking you about the essence of ethics in the times of crisis. Now, when you will be answering this question, please see that the crisis is not only humanitarian crisis, not only environmental crisis or the climatic crisis, not only the food crisis, right? So not only the any kind of ethnic violence crisis. So you have to address the multiple dimensions. Whichever year you are writing your mains, please pick up the current affairs and see whatever is going on around and just try to see it from the ethical lens and supplement it by the various ethical theories. Okay, in my mentoring session, you can ask me further that how to do the proper answer writing. Is it clear? In today's class, we are going to discuss about the human values. So the relevance of this chapter, what I'm trying to say is that this paper is of 250 marks, okay? Please understand each question is of 150 marks or 250 marks you have to attempt, right? So in 150 marks, don't waste your time, okay? Don't waste your time. How much are you able to write in 150 marks after reading this whole PDF, after taking a 2 hours of class? Then this session will be very fruitful to you. Please try to get the maximum out of this session, okay? So understand over here, please concentrate. What are these human values? Values are like the pole stars. They are the guiding stars for anybody to move on in a morally uprighteous path, okay? For example, empathy. Empathy is a human value, to be empathetic. Now, what does empathy means? To step into someone's shoes and analyze the situation over there, right? The pain and the suffering the person is going through. For example, Mother Teresa is a classic example of having a very empathetic attitude, where she has worked for the destitutes, for the people suffering from leprosy and the children in Kolkata, right? As a bureaucrat, you need to have such empathetic attitude to work for the weaker and the marginalized sections of the society. There is this concept of human dignity, right? There is this concept of human dignity which is above all. Is it clear? Now, in this chapter, we are going to discuss what are the lessons we learn from the lives and the teachings of, first, we will see certain leaders. Second, we are going to see the reformers. And third, we are going to see the administrators. In the leaders, we can discuss, for example, let me give you a crux also here. Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela was in jail for 27 years after that apartheid movement, right? When he came out of the jail, he never thought of revenge. His value system was based on reformation, courage, and he wanted to bring in the change in the society. So he brought the truth and Reconciliation Commission in South Africa, and he worked for the education of the youth in South Africa. That's why in Africa it is today one of the most developed nations. So that's a visionary leader. Why we are studying this chapter, understand your vision as a bureaucrat should be so far-sighted that today if you are applying a scheme in your district, what will be the effect in coming years? You should have a visionary approach. ठीक है? आज मैंने नल लगा दिया है, आज मैंने water harvesting system लगा दिया है, today I have done this plantation drive. It may not give me immediate results today, but what about the 5 years? What about the 10 years? What about the 20 years? In the long run, it's going to always work. Okay. Second, reformers such as you can write about Raja Ram Mohan Roy, 18th century reformer. He had led to abolition of sati, right? And working for the women remarriage act, working for the widow remarriage and women education. Administrators, over here this is very important. In administrator, you can take the example of T.N. Seshan. Okay, he was the chief election commissioner in 1990s, 90s. He brought in the moral code of conduct, right, which led to reduction in criminalization of politics, bringing in more ethical good governance in the system. Is it clear? Apart from this, administrators, Ashok Khemka, who has been working with a lot of honesty. Apart from this, we have seen the example of Armstrong Pym, right? Apart from this, E. Sridharan. Towards the end of the class, I will give you a video where I'll make a complete ethical terminologies, keywords, and I will also try to bring in the example of these governance people so that you can quote in your answer writing. Like an administrator, there is O.P. Chaudhary, ex-IS officer of Chhattisgarh cadre, who had worked for the welfare of the children in the Naxalite area, in the Dan Aranyakya zone area. Is it clear? So such examples you have to quote over here. Now, a role of family, society and educational institutions in inculcating the values. Okay. Now, whatever we learn from the family, the child is in its initial year is learning from his mother, father and his surroundings. At home, family is the first house, or family is the first place where the child is learning the value system, right? If he grows up into a secular family, then definitely he grows up more chances of him being a secular individual. Is it clear? Now, society, the thought process of the society, how the value system changed in the society. During 18th century, sati was acceptable, right? It was considered a very high value system in the society. But today it is a punishable crime, right? Today it is unethical. It is illegal also, right? So this is how society changes the value systems. And education. Educational institution. You have seen in educational institution that children from all the segments are coming together, they are sitting together, they are learning together. So whatever predisposition, even if the child had learned in his family and the society, that gets removed. You see the top colleges, the IIT, NIT and the IIMs, they are selecting the best of the best creams from all the segments, right? This is one example. So everybody is coming together. There is no sense of differentiation you find in the people, from which caste they are coming, from which creed they are coming, from which race they are coming, from which color they are coming. So education plays a very important role in upliftment of the individualistic value system of the person. Is it clear? And you have seen the classic example of Dr. Bhim Rao Ambedkar, how merely with his education, okay, as a tool, he had brought a change in the society, right? He was the one who had drafted the constitution, this constitution which is based on the constitutional morality of justice, equality, fraternity, liberty, individual equality. Is it clear? Now, this is clear. Now understand, whenever you're studying any part of the syllabus or any subject you are studying, your objective should be to clear the examination. You don't have to go into a lot of detail. Your objective should be, after studying this, can I write the answer in 2 pages? Okay, so let's see what we learned from today's class. So these human values, basically, they are divided into 2 types. Okay, these human values, they are divided into 2 types. The first one over here is known as, we have already discussed what are these values. Being courageous, courage, Generosity is giving to someone something that belongs to you, not merely for praise or recognition or reward. It is just for the sake of giving. Internal value. Okay. Truth, honesty, justice. Okay. But again, this human value system, it has been divided into two parts. The first one over here is intrinsic value. What is this intrinsic value? Intrinsic value is something which is in itself. It is good in itself. Okay. Intrinsic means in itself. Right? There is no external check over here. For example, again, truth, being honest. What is, okay, I will delete this from here. Now, the second part of human values is instrumental. What is the meaning of this word instrumental? I will say that intrinsic is first degree value. Instrumental is a second degree value. Now, this means that this value is dependent on the intrinsic value. Dependent on the intrinsic value. Again, example, fitness, second degree value. To be fit, yes. To be healthy, definitely, yes. It is a second degree, it's an instrumental value. It's adding up to your aesthetics, it's adding up to your human health, right? Apart from this, wealthy. Wealth. If you have wealth, you can buy basic resources of your needs. Is it clear? So these are second degree value. But first degree is important. Truth, honesty. The objective is to get the clarity between the two set of values. Is it clear? Now what happens that these values basically are abstract. These values are basically abstract. That means there is no concretization. That means if I am saying truth, it means that it is a open-ended value over here. But when I say be honest, or be honesty is the best policy, or being truthful is a greatest virtue, you should be truthful in your examination. You should be, as a civil servant, be true to your duty. Now I'm attaching a if you see the subject-object relationship, I'm attaching a significant part to this value system of being honest to your duty as a civil servant. There is a objective, right? So that means when these abstract value system, when they get objectified or when they get concretized, they become a norm. And norm is basically the set of principles which is acceptable by the society. Is it clear? Now understand these words. I have just mentioned it over here. What is the difference between all of them? See, the first one over here is belief. Okay, wait. We can start it like this. The first one over here is belief. Okay? Belief means I believe there should be clean environment. This is my belief. Belief in cleanliness. I believe that there should be a clean environment. And now this belief, it gets objectified in the value system, which means that there is cleanliness. When the beliefs get objectified, they become values. This objectified value, what happens that this cleanliness ultimately, again, being objectified over here, it is abstract. Cleanliness of what? Now this becomes objectified and it becomes the norms. And norm is basically your socially accepted behavior in the society. Yes, behavior or the principles in the society. My belief, it is my internal conviction that I believe that corruption is wrong. It is my internal conviction. Value system over here to remove corruption is integrity, to bring probity in governance, to bring transparency, to bring accountability. That is the value system. To bring just integrity, that's a value. Okay. Norm, what is the ethical norm over here? That the civil servant should have a value of high integrity. They should be a man of high integrity. They should be a man of high probity. Is it clear? So over here again, taking the environment, taking the example of environment, clean environment, cleanliness, and norms are over here. Norms we see when the people give acceptance to Clean India campaign. Is it clear? When I will be discussing attitude in my next class, I will describe that how these further come together and they become the attitude of the person. That's the matter of another class. Is this concept clear? That values are abstract, but when these values, they ultimately get objectified, they become the norms in the society. Now, see over here. Again, I have picked up this example. Do not lie. Okay, what is that I have in the belief system? That lying harms the relationship. This is my belief that if you lie, it is going to lead to internal conflicts and disturbance of the relationship between the people. So this is the belief. This is my internal conviction. This belief system, right? Value, what is the value attached to this belief? When this belief, again I have mentioned you, when this belief, it gets objectified, it becomes a value system, and this value system over here is honesty, right? Now again, what are the morals? Okay, morals is again, these are the socially acceptable principles over here where I'm saying that lying is cheating, which is again wrong. Morals will be your guide towards righteousness or the wrongness over here. Okay. And when again these value system, they get objectified, I've just discussed in the previous PPT, they become the norms in the society. Example, truthfulness is expected in the society. This is acceptable standard in the society. Is it clear? Now what happens? Again, these norms, right? Again, these norms, they will get objectified and they will become the ethics or the principal code of conduct. For example, if I take a governance example and if I say that there should be no, I believe that there should be corruption-free government, or there should be no corruption in the society. That is my internal conviction, that there should be honesty, there should be transparency, right? Value system over here is integrity. And how? It will be a foundational value of civil services. The objectified norm would be over here that integrity must be upheld by the bureaucrat, and that will be seen in the ethical decision. And to bring in that integrity or to reduce that corruption, what government is trying to do, it will try to bring in the law, which is Prevention of Corruption Act. Is it clear? I've mixed two examples over here, right? So over here, if we see in this context, fraud is legally punishable. So is it clear what is a belief? Okay, what is a value? Belief पे value system बनता है, ठीक है? And it is also supplemented by the morals in the society. ये सही है, ये गलत है. Okay, society is deciding on that. Norms, again, when your value system completely becomes objectified, it becomes the norms. And then when the norms are objectified, they become your ethics, right? Now, see this diagram also over here. This is your value system, okay? Now, in terms of society, okay? In terms of society, if I see, then these values, which are currently abstract and static, okay, these are abstract and static, they again turn into the ethics and the norms of the society. Is it clear? These objectify to form the norms, and again the norms are objectified to form the ethics in the society. Is it clear? Now see over here. Again this value system, when seen in the individual capacity, right? When seen in the individual capacity, these becomes the morals, okay? And again, it leads to the character development and spread of morality in the society. Is it clear? This chart is very important for your examination. Further, one more thing we will see, that when these values, okay, when these values, they are concretized, right, they become the attitude. They become the attitude, and later attitude is observed in the behavior of the person. Let me explain it again with the example over here. ठीक है? Value, अभी मैं example लेती हूँ, honesty. Honesty is a value. ठीक है? Now, to be at an individual level, okay, at an individual level, if we see, we should not lie, okay. So honesty will be seen in the character of the individual. The moral virtue over here is being honest. So this is interlinked over here. Now again, I have picked up honesty. In the societal or in the governance perspective, we see over here that integrity. Integrity is considered as a norm for the civil services. I hope this part is clear. So this is much about the human values. Let's further see over here what are the other features of human values. So there are certain core characteristics over here, right? They are universal and timeless, always static and same. They form the moral foundations of the individuals and also the society. We have just discussed the individuals and the society. They influence our judgments about the right and wrong. They develop through family, culture, education, religion, personal experiences. I think UPSC has asked a question regarding this, formation of value system or attitude formation, how value plays a role. So you can just put the question in middle and write the factors outside over here. Is it clear? Now, see, examples we had already discussed: honesty, respect, compassion, responsibility, generosity, justice, empathy, equality. Okay? They are acquired through, first of all, primary socialization in your family, religious and cultural transmission. Achha, what do you learn from primary socialization in your family? You learn the values of helping others. You learn the values of respecting your elders, right? Religious and cultural transmission, it is concept of plurality. In cultures, in various cultures, there are various good practices which we learn. For example, in the Sikhs, we see the langar system, which is providing food for so many people for free, right? So nobody goes hungry. That's their biggest, that's considered the biggest karma, to not let anyone sleep hungry. Educational experiences. We learn not only IQ things, but we learn the struggles of hard work, which you all are doing for civil services, which you all must have done while searching for the job after your education or during your education part. The perseverance we learn from here. Role model and influential figures. What happens in Swachh Bharat Abhiyan? They pick up any kind of celebrity. So that celebrity, he plays the role model over there, right? Critical life experiences. We have our own certain value and experiences from where we learn. For example, if you are into mountaineering, or if you're into marathon, if you're into playing any kind of sports, then definitely a person who is very disciplined in sports, that will be depicted in his studies also. That will be depicted not only in studies, in his every part of life, because he has played sports so much. He has played that game. He has learned the art of failing and being humble, right? So that value system, if you are a sports person, any kind of sports you play, you're going to learn that perseverance. You are going to fall and you are going to again rise as a phoenix. Okay, so these are the values we learn from there. Impact on the behavior. Value system, yes, definitely. Decision making criteria in ambiguous situations. Suppose you are a district collector, okay, and then you have to make a decision making in terms of the wherever, in terms where the communal violence is going on, right? What kind of decision making are you going to take over there? Now, this is little vague, ambiguous, right? It depends on your internal value system. If you are a secularized person, if you treat every human with equal dignity, right, then definitely this is going to lead to a better, equitable decision making, right? Motivational forces behind the behavior, right? Why? What you do, why you do, sometimes that is important. The question of why is very important over here, right? Okay, so administrator who values transparency, okay, he will naturally establish open communication system, while one value the line chain hierarchy may create more closed system. And more the work culture is based on communication, more familial it is, more congenial it is for people to work together. There is a topic in your ethics paper, work culture. There I will be discussing, in the work culture there has to be balance. Little philosophical angle will bring over here. There has to be balance of satogun, tamogun and rajogun, right? And when that work culture, on the basis of Mahatma Gandhi's dharma concept, it turns into a place where you see work as your duty, definitely it leads to ethical good governance. Is it clear? So I've already discussed types of values. We have discussed intrinsic value, right? What was intrinsic? That is good in itself, right? It does not need anyone's help over here, intrinsic value. Instrumental value, now it depends on the intrinsic value. It is conditional, it is derivative. For example, education, right? For example, fitness. For example, money. I mean, it has a value, but again, it is second degree. What is more essential is dignity, human dignity, freedom, the concept of honesty. Is it clear? Okay, this is the difference I have drawn. This is for you guys to study. Now, again, very briefly, I'll discuss over here. Intrinsic value is good in itself. It has an inherent worth. It has its own qualities. Definitely. This is good because it is useful. Instrumental is something which is useful. You are fit. That is useful. That is leading to a good health, right? It has a utility purpose. It has some kind of utility. Now, see with examples over here, right? The question which guides over here is basically why it is good on its own, why honesty is good on its own. You don't require any kind of external factor over here. And second one, in instrumental, you see what does it help to achieve. So the question asked over here, right? The question asked over here are totally different. Is it clear? Okay. These important terminologies we had just discussed. What is this belief? The belief is the internal conviction. And what is this? What an individual holds to be true. It is a belief. I believe that there should be honesty. I believe that there should be a corruption-free government. I believe that there should be a clean environment. That's my individual belief, right? And this belief is developed on the basis of religion, culture, and my personal experiences. Now, again, internal conviction, there is no external force over here. Honesty always leads to better outcome over here. Now, value, deeply held personal guiding principles about what is important, right? You learn it again from family, culture, society, personal upbringing. Now, these are also internal value system of integrity, honesty, and all. Morals, socially acceptable principles of right and wrong over here. Again, morals are internally driven. Please note down over here, morals are internally driven. For example, we will see somebody who has this moral attitude of serving the nation, who gives importance to the value of patriotism. His morality will always be about working for the national spirit, and that will be seen in the character development of the human when he will, the citizen, when he will turn out to be nationally patriotic. Is it clear? Some people are very neutral, but somebody who has a very internal moral system, right? If you are internally very strong that there should not be corruption free there should not be corruption in the society, or there should not be corruption in the government services, then you will develop that kind of character also, that you will work for bringing the transparency and the accountability in the system. Is it clear? Norm. Okay, we have already discussed, when the value system is objectified, it becomes the norm over here, something which is acceptable by the society, a group of pattern. For example, you have to stand in the queue, right? And you know it is a norm, so you will not break the queue or fight with anyone for that. Okay. Ethics, we have just discussed, it is a science of moral philosophy, where what ought to be done, what ought not to be done, it is decided by it, right? These are the objectified norms of rationality supplemented by the morality in action. Okay. Law are codified rules, okay, something which is put externally, right? These are the external checks which are providing the punishment also. For example, if you break the traffic lights, there is a law that challan will come and you will be punished for that. If you don't have tax compliance, right, then what is going to happen? There is going to be a law in which you have to pay the penalty for the taxes. Is it clear? This is something external. But if you are internally, ethically a responsible citizen, you will definitely pay the taxes. So there will not be any situation to put a law on you. Is it clear? This we have discussed. This we can discuss. A civil servant, he is facing pressure to alter a report. I think this year UPSC, let me issue with the pen, UPSC in 2025 mains, okay, in the 2025 mains case study has already asked this question over here. A civil servant who was facing a pressure, not exactly to alter two questions were there. One was regarding, there was a officer in PSU who was, I think, question number 9. Please go and check question number 9 and 10. Similar questions, okay? So there was a officer in PSU who was pressurized from a senior official to actually show that the stationery that they have brought is of 30 lakhs and plus splitting the whole money, not to show that entire stationery is of 35 lakhs, and a senior official had been forcing him to buy the stationery from the single vendor, right, which was again the GFR rules. So that kind of pressure was upon that person. Another case study, it talked about a civil servant named Subhash, who was pressurized by his own son, who was pressurized by the minister to disclose, first of all, the place of the infrastructure building, and to even give that place to the minister's favorite person. Is it clear? So that kind of pressure you are going to face. Now what happens? Your belief system over here is, if your belief system is that public office is a trusted place, so what you will do, your value system will be that you will always have uphold the principles of integrity. And again, the society, it also wants, the morality of the society lies that there should be no corruption, right? It wants a clean governance. The norm over here, administrative norms over here, is about the truthful reporting, being a whistleblower, right? Ethics. Ethics talks about impartiality in this case. There should be objectivity, there should be fact-based decision making, right? And law. If any civil servant who faces the pressure to alter the report, and if he does that report, first of all, there is already Prevention of Corruption Act. This is one external check, right? So ethical actions, they occur when the value system aligns with the law, even if the consequences are risky for the officer. Is it clear? The difference is clear. Belief, how it objectifies into a value, how the values objectify into norms, and how norms objectify into ethical decision making. Is it clear? Now, let's pick up the second topic over here. We will do it very quickly. Rather, this topic is for you guys. Conceptual part, I have taught you, right, in today's class what was important. This is something that you are going to see and practice in your answer writing. Let's see over here. First one, we will be dealing with the leaders, Mahatma Gandhi. What are the core values we have learned from him? Very quickly, you can make in your notes a tabular format. Satyagraha, Satya. Okay, Satya means truth. Truth, he always said that truth is God and God is truth. He mentioned about absolute commitment to honesty. He has written a book, Experiments with the Truth. right? Second thing he talked about was non-violence and ahimsa, which we had seen in the Chora Chori movement, where he had asked to basically end that non-cooperation movement because the police officers were burnt in Gorakhpur, right, by the people. So he says that this principle of ahimsa extends to all, that is non-killing, right, and it is a weapon of the weak. No, it's not the weapon of the weak, it's a weapon of the strong rather than the weak. Satyagraha. Satyagraha means that it is not a passive resistance, it is a soul force leading to truth and love. It means that whatever you do, your means have to be purer as the ends. It is not that by hook or by crook you get independence. The means you go through, they have to be justified. The means have to be justified as the ends. Is it clear? Sarvodaya. Mahatma Gandhi, he had talked for welfare of all. Welfare of all, basically, it is inclusion of everyone together, okay? And this is based on, again, the model of trusteeship. Swaraj, which means self-rule. Swadeshi, Swaraj, self-rule, means he wanted the political independence from colonization, but he wanted village self-sufficiency and decentralization in the nation. And this we have seen in Article 40, where it talks about the panchayats of DPSP. Swadeshi, we had seen in economic self-reliance. Is it clear? What are the lessons we are learning over here? First of all, the moral courage. He had a solitary salt march, right, which was initially mocked, but it has mobilized. What happened in the Dandi Yatra or the salt march? Salt was such a small, mere common product that it has touched the masses on a very larger scale, right? Means and ends, integrity. The means have to be justified as the ends. That means the independence had to be earned, not only seen as an end goal objective, but the means to get the independence have to be ahimsa, satyagraha, right, and truth. He asked for simple living, decentralization we had seen. Okay, what is the relevance? Gandhi's integrity over here, it is very essential. He had given his seven sins of Mahatma Gandhi, which you can quote in answer writing. They are useful for combating the corruption. Okay. In the environmental crisis, he talks of simple living and sustainable consumption. Communal harmony, it requires non-violence and mutual respect. He talks about inclusive development, which embodies the Sarvodaya principle over here. Grassroots democracy, again, it reflects the Swaraj. Now, this is important, Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar, because he was the one who had, whenever the question comes of constitutional morality, his name has to be mentioned. Right? He was the one who had talked about the annihilation of the caste system in Indian society. He talked about equal human respect and dignity, right? He talked about the constitutional safeguards, equal rights regardless your birth, gender and religion, right? He was the one who was talking about the affirmative action for the historically disadvantaged society. Now, this affirmative action, in my last class, I had already discussed that it is based on, over here, John Rawls' concept of differential equality. Two minutes I will take over here. John Rawls says to all the bureaucrats and the people, he says that have a veil of ignorance. Right? What does this word means, veil of ignorance? Ek parda. Okay. He says that whenever you are a bureaucrat, okay, anybody is coming to you in your office, old man, old lady, knowable, friends, family, you should be keeping your predispositions at the back and you should be looking them with a very transparent lens, with a very objectified, rational attitude, detached attitude. This veil of ignorance is very essential for the bureaucrat. And here he gives this concept that now you see, now you try to provide the social justice to them. Keep your predispositions at the back. On this basis of John Rawls' affirmative action, bringing social justice into our constitution has been provided. Again, we had seen the three pillars Ambedkar ji has talked about is liberty, equality, and fraternity, leading to justice. Education, he always talked about educate, agitate, and organize. Now, this concept over here, see, what do we learn from him? Constitutional morality. As a civil servant, no matter what, Constitution is talking about equality. You have to be a bureaucrat who has that sense of justice, who has that aptitude for bringing the equity distribution in the society, right? One more thing you can note down over here in John Rawls, this differential equality over here, it tries to bring in equity in the society. There is a difference between equity and equality. I think political science students can very well understand this. Equality means ki I give things equally to everyone, irrespective. Equity means ki I will see those people who are not having, I will try to give them first, right? Those people who can't even afford, I will try to create the opportunity. Equity means creating, at least creating the equal opportunities for them. Is it clear? Now, so apart from this, yes, you can very well see over here, he talked about substantive equality. Equality not only formally, but the reservation which justify this, right consciousness, we have seen social justice lens, rule of law, democracy, way of life, right? This you guys can quote over here. What I wanted to tell you over here is constitutional morality. Swami Vivekananda, okay, he talked about strength is life and weakness is death. If you remember that his biggest virtue or the value which we learned from him is the path of karma yoga. He said that service to mankind is service to God. Whatever karma you are doing, that is your biggest service as a bureaucrat. Now understand, whatever service allocation you get, your objective, okay, your dharma, it is basically the karma yoga over here. This is what Swami Vivekananda say. It does not, there are three parts of this whole karma thing, or this whole yoga thing. Karma yoga, Gyan yoga, right? And Bhakti yoga. But he gives this concept of whatever you are doing, your work is worship. This is the stature which has been given by him. Service to humanity is service to God. Okay, this you all can see in the PDF. Okay, what does the civil servant learn from him? First of all, dignity of service. This we have seen in his Ram Krishna mission, right? Service which provide. Strength-based approach, focus on people's strength. Harmony and inclusion. East-West synthesis. Now this means that you learn wherever you are posted as a district collector, you learn from the practices, right? You try to adapt from the practices. Suppose you are posted in a tribal district, you learn from their traditional knowledge and you try to bring it, those things in your governance. That inclusiveness is required in the leader. Okay. Abraham Lincoln. We all know his story that he has been the first black president of USA, all throughout failing in his life, in his job, in his personal life, marriage, and everywhere. But again, he was the one in the last. He became the first president of United States and he is remembered for bringing equality. And he was the one who is responsible for end of slavery after American Revolution, right? Integrity. He talked about keeping promises, humility, okay, despite having high office, he remained very humble. Perseverance, he said that I am a slow walker, but I never walk back. So this exam also requires a lot of perseverance. When you will be bureaucrat, there also in decision making, there will be delay, but you need to have that kind of perseverance. Is it clear? Now, definitely moral, ethical leadership, inclusive decision making, right? This we had learned from him. Political skill, Nelson Mandela, very important, right? All these you can quote in your essays also. These and how examples from world history are very important. You can write those in your essay and ethics. Forgiveness and reconciliation, right? He forgave the jailers after being imprisoned for 27 years because his objective was he didn't believe in this concept of giving punishment. He believed that there should be reformation in the society, and reformation he was trying to bring how? By working on the education part. and bringing in the democratic governance in South Africa. Is it clear? So all these virtues we see over here. He was the one who had a vision of rainbow nation. See, if I sit with you guys and if I start teaching you each leader and reformer, this session can go on for hours and hours. Please try to understand, one class you should be able to get out maximum in 2 hours. Don't try to waste on one topic more than that, right? You have to do smart study. You don't have to learn everything. You need to know the name, you need to know what they did, and you need to know the basic value systems, right? And then most important, knowing is not important, mains answer writing is more important. Are you able to write that in 150 words? Are you able to comprehend your ideas? That is more important over here, right? So let's very quickly see through them. This is in your free time, you can scroll. Mother Teresa, she is known for compassion. I had already 2 times described that she was the one who had worked empathetically for the destitute and the women and the leprosy people in Kolkata, right? Apart from this, Martin Luther King. Now this is very important again, because again we see that how he, and prior to him, it was Rosa Parks incident which has ignited this incident in America, that there should be justice and there should be dignity for even the black people. They should be considered equal, right? So basically he was he brought in the racial justice. He said injustice anywhere, okay, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere, right? He adopted Guardian Satyagraha. Apart from this, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, he also known as the Iron Man of India. He had worked for the integration of 562 princely states over here. He believed in the concept of unity above regional or princely interests, right? Practical. Now, what do we learn from him? Most important over here is practical, pragmatic problem-solving approach. This you are going to face in the decision making as a civil servant. Is it clear? You have to, as a bureaucrat or implementator of the policies, you have to be one person who is trying to make those policies work at a very grassroots level. Is it clear? Now, he had focused on nation building. We had seen how Junagadh, 3 states, had been brought, Hyderabad, right, and Jammu and Kashmir, one by police action, one by principle of accession. They had been brought into our nation, right, the unified nation, which is India. Okay, apart from this, Florence Nightingale, again, she was a nurse, okay, she had been working or she had been caring for the wounded soldiers, also known as Lady of Lamb, right? Totally, she transformed nursing into a respected profession after this. Again, courage, okay, despite all the conditions. So first of all, what do we learn from this? First of all, that the reform that you have to bring in, that should be evidence-based or data-based over here. There should be sense of professionalism. There should be systematic thinking. There should be compassion, but it should be with efficiency. It should be working together, right? Raja Ram Mohan Roy, I've already discussed that he had been the one who had been working for the abolition of sati, women rights, against the child marriage and caste system criticism, right? This is for you guys to read. The whole PPT is for you. These were about the reformers and the people. Now this is important over here. This I will discuss. E. Sridharan. E. Sridharan is known for his consistency. He is known for his perseverance, right? He is the metro man of India, and he said that he would not compromise the standards of building the metro despite multiple political pressures, right? He said, if you want perfection, try and try again. Okay, he was a man of high integrity who had a zero tolerance attitude for corruption, which led to transparent process, ethical even under the political pressure. And he has said that I have never taken a bribe and never will. So this is the kind of attitude I always said you, the question of why you want to write this examination, this question of why is very important, because understand, this exam is not a one day examination which you clear, write and clear. This is a practice for years and years. And also understand that there is a lot of pressure, you go through a lot of psychological, personal and emotional changes. So the question of why is important, because this is one which lets you sustain this whole process, right? Why you have to join civil services, that is important over here. What key lessons the civil servant can learn from him: project management excellence, how the planning, execution, monitoring system had to be done, how in phases Delhi Metro Rail Corporation has been completed, corruption free administration. He had brought in, for example, there should be system of e-tendering, bring in e-governance, use of ICT. We are going to see in administrative ethics part. There has to be a deadline culture, treating time seriousness, okay, over here. There should not be delayed project, because delayed infrastructure cost is also again a cost, which is a capital which is lost, right? Technical competence, standard and system, taking the ownership of the things. Now another person over here is Kiran Bedi. Kiran Bedi, she is specifically known for bringing the Tihar jail reforms or reformative. See, if I take a class on this leaders, it will be a very endless class, right? Let's wind it up till here. She was the one who had brought reformations of the Tihar jail through reforms. She had focused on community policing, creating the solutions to conventional problems. Is it clear? The first IPS officer of India. Discipline, service, gender equality, integrity, leading by example, how there has to be a rule of law. Okay? How there has to be a reformist approach, community participation, gender mainstreaming, courage of conviction, holistic solution. All these terms you can pick up and write in your answer. Okay, first half is done. Now, very quickly, we are going to see this. How is the role of family, society and educational institution in the inculcation of the value? Now, family plays a very crucial role, because initially 5-7 years are important for the psychological development of the child. He is learning that emotional competency, emotional intelligence. The child is learning the element of emotional intelligence over here, right? So this is very important. And he learns from his family unconditional love, intimate relationships which enable him, which give him a deep influence over here, right? And it is said that family's environment, strongest predator of child's moral development. If he's seeing a parenting style, right? If he's seeing a parenting style, his mother is always guiding him morally. Definitely, as growing person, he will always have that set of subconsciousness in his mind, which he is going to learn. And this is what will be seen in his behavior and character development. Okay? And further, it will be seen in the decision making. What you have learned from your father, what you have learned from your mother. That is not seen in the initial years, like by till 35 years you will not be noticing, but as you start aging, you will see that you will adapt those things in your nature, right? Mechanisms of value transmission in the family. We had seen that, first of all, learning by observation. Child picks up that. If again, I'll bring a secular example because that comes into my mind. If somebody is some animal is coming nearby your home, right, and you see that your mother is giving the cow, or maybe the cow, goat, or cat or dog, she's giving some little milk to drink, right, some food to eat, some chapati to. So you will learn those things by observation. Okay, I have to help, I have to be sensitive to the animals. That kind of value transmission a child has from the family. Now there is direct teaching, where your mother tells you, or your parent, any of the parent, I'm just giving an example, do not lie, do not steal, do not take others' money, right? ऐसे बोलते हैं ना घर में, free फोकट का नहीं खाना. So when you grow up, you become that individual कि okay, there is a self dignity to myself, to my own human existence, right? That is direct teaching. What to do, what not to do, the parents tell you. Discipline and consequences, right? Whenever you're watching TV for very late night, your mother will she'll be coming with a stick and she'll be teaching you discipline, right? So these things you can study. Emotional bonding, we learn with our siblings the concept of emotional bonding. We fight at childhood, but as we grow, we develop that bond, right, of that sacredness we have. Family rituals and traditions, definitely. Whatever prayers, worship, and fasting, they teach us the value of perseverance, right? The meals you are having together in a Christian family, whenever they have meal together, they sing a prayer together, right? So these are the value system which you learn from the family. I hope this is clear. Now see this. I have picked up this example over here. A family tradition of feeding the stray animals. It teaches compassion. This element of compassion will be learned as a childhood, and when you will be becoming the district collector, you will be having this attitude not only for animals but also for the welfare of the other sections. ये एक आंतरिक प्रक्रिया है, right? Internal process. That's why this paper which they have brought, ethics, integrity and aptitude, they talk more about, rather than having the external check, they talk more about bringing the internal accountability, bringing the internal change in the value system. Is it clear? Now, specific values cultivated in the family, you can read here: empathy, compassion, responsibility, respect, self-discipline, justice and fairness, courage and honesty. Quickly we'll pick up society, the extended school of values, how the society shape value. Okay. First of all, social learning theory given by Bandura. He says that people, they learn from observing others in the social context. You will see that Akshay Kumar, he had given that movie Padman, and he has said in that ad that why are you smoking cigarette? Can't you bring pants to your wife for her menstrual cycle? So that kind of behavior becomes a norm. You go to theater and there they say, they give this ad that cigarette is injurious to health, right? You learn, that is social learning theory. So socialization process, basically this is internalization. Okay, this is the next step of the cultural norms and values which is seen in your value behavior. Next time, okay, and this comes through informal education or social interactions over here, right? Socialization process, for example, if you see that India is there's a match going on, and you see that you learn this spirit of patriotism. Why? Social process. And then you also start wearing Team India t-shirt and you start hooting for Team India, right? So that is basically over here. Social capital, networks of relationship, they create the shared values. Okay. So what happens that ultimately all this leads to a social capital, and understand that this social capital is basically leading to a humanistic national capital. And this national capital, basically, if the right ethics is fed over here, this is definitely going to lead to ethical good governance. Is it clear? Now, what are the agents of socialization in the society? Peer pressure. You learn. If your friend is going to the gym and if he's running marathons, definitely you're going to pick up that. Oh, he's my friend, he's doing that, let me do that. If you see him smoking cigarette, he'll be like, oh, you also try, and you will also pick up that, right? So you learn it from there. Religious institutions, right? You learn community support and accountability. I've just discussed about the langar practice in the Sikh. So one more thing, temples annadan, right? Free food distribution, which you see, it teaches charity and service. It is generosity, right? You see that there are soup models, basically a church soup models kitchen, they models the compassion way. I've given this example of Gurudwara's langar. Community organization, you learn this value system from youth groups, from NCC you learn this whole process of patriotism, right? The people of NCC, they want to join Indian Army, they want to serve the nation. Cultural associations, let's have a cultural group of bringing Clean India campaign, create awareness about corruption-free India, bring in your Digital India campaign, promote that, right? There are sports club, there are neighborhood associations, self-help group, Kudum Shri, which is working for the upliftment of the women in the Kerala, Lijat Papad, again. So basically, apart from this, one more factor over here, it is media and the popular culture. Suppose there is this film, okay? Three Idiots. It promotes that education, it has to be not merely rote learning, it has to be something which has to be implemented in your real life, right? So that also plays an important role. Public spaces and civil societies. So how the public spaces, they teach values, behavior in cues, it teaches turns taking and fairness. For example, public park teach environmental care, right? Uh, there was a small forest area destruction which was happening in Delhi. I'm not able to exactly recollect the name, but what happened? A lot of NGOs and societies, the people, they came together in the public spaces and they defied it. Right? You can say, give the example of Chipko movement over here in the public spaces when the trees were being cut down. Then Amrita Devi, she held the tree and she was like, "This is our public space. This is our environment, and we will not let it destroy." Is it clear? Uh, I think that is it. Let's take some past year question. Yesterday, I just missed the question by, societal changes in value education. Okay, 5 more minutes and then we'll wind this up. So, in education, what are you learning? You're learning the value of pluralism. Okay, diverse community has different value system, and you are coming together in a close school setup, right? And there are dialogues, there is tolerance, and there is finding of the common ground over here. Apart from this, social movements and the value change. Social reform movements, this we have discussed, not very important exam, this you guys can see, right? How independence movement had brought in the democratic participation, how civil rights movement had led to racial equality in USA, environmental movement, Chipko movement, Narmada Bachao movement, women's right movement bringing in gender equality. Current movement over here is regarding the LGBT plus rights. Now this is talking, okay, this was seen in decriminalization of homosexuality in section 377 of IPC in Navtej Singh Johar case. Okay. So this is bringing openness in the society, the acceptance of various views in the society. Educational institution, the formal school of values beyond the family. Schools where children are learning, they are learning this in this critical period, they are learning the method of character formation, right? I think that is it. What do you, let's pick up the question. What do you understand by values and ethics over here? In what way is it important to be ethically along with being professionally competent? Now understand, we have just discussed that values are like the pole stars, they are the guiding stars which are abstract, which are static, and they tell you what is the right path. Example over here, what do you understand by values? Very, very simple, very simple. You have to answer it, okay? What are these values? Honesty. What is ethics? Ethics is basically the objectified norm which is differentiating between what is out to be done and what is out not to be done. Since I picked up the example of honesty, in ethics I will say that a ethically honest bureaucrat, I'll pick up the example of a civil servant, a ethically honest bureaucrat will lead to integrity in the governance. Is it clear? He will try to bring in probity in the governance. Now see, whatever terms I'm using, I have picked it up from the syllabus. That is why I have said please put up the syllabus on your study table. That is important. Is it clear? In what way is it important to be ethical along with being professionally competent, right? Now, if I take an example of Ashok Kemka, personally he has been an officer of high integrity, but professionally he could not bring a lot of change. whatever was happening, he was being transferred from one department to another. So significant change he could not bring. But you have to be that officer who is ethical enough, okay, who diverts into the pragmatic ways where there will be the least corruption in the system, and who will try to focus on implementation of the schemes at the ground level. Some people feel that values keep changing with time and situation, while others strongly believes that there are certain universal and eternal human values. Absolutely, these values which keep changing with time and these which are universal and eternal, these are your intrinsic values. We have just discussed that. Honesty, right? Give your perception in this regard with a due justification. And what is this value which keeps on changing with time? Instrumental, because it is a second degree value. Fitness. There was once a time where a zero figure model was preferred. Then there was a time another model was preferred. Fitness industry, the value keeps on changing over there. So this health over here, okay, health is going to be again not health, the fitness is going to be a changing value. Today it is, tomorrow it is going to be different. That's a instrumental. It is a dependent value on the intrinsic value. But intrinsic value is something which is static, which is constant, which is universal, which is timeless, which is not going to change. For example, honesty, right? Again, instrumental value, wealth. How much wealth is required for a happy life? Now that is subjective. It depends from person to person. Is it clear? It is often said that politics and ethics do not go together. What is your opinion in this regard? Now, please, you have to exactly remember over here Mahatma Gandhi's 7 sins, right? Where he says that politics and ethics should go together. So you have to justify it like that. The good of an individual is contained in the good of all. So you should be a bureaucrat who is the one who is having a utilitarian perspective, who is talking that there should be maximum good for the maximum number of people. Is it clear? How can this principle be implemented in the public life? Definitely, you are a bureaucrat, you are a district collector. You have to make sure if there is Ayushman Bharat scheme coming, you have to make sure that each and every, the last mile person who is standing in your district has to get his Abha ID done. Is it clear? I'm just giving you the idea to write it. Which eminent personality has inspired you the most? Whatever has inspired you, you can mention about him, give the just very simple example they've asked you. You can write about Rabindranath Tagore, Mahatma Gandhi, whatever you feel like, right? But justify it with the ethical arguments that why and how it had brought change in your society. Current society is plagued with widespread trust deficit. What are the consequences of this situation for personal well-being and for the societal well-being? What can you do at the personal level to make yourself trustworthy? Okay, this is a question. What are the consequences of this? So 1, 2, and 3. You have to attempt it at 3 levels. The current society is plagued with widespread trust deficit. Yes. First of all, address this part of the question. When they are asking you, in 20 words, you have to write over here. Because in the current society, if you see various dimensions, if you see how there is a trust deficit, not only emotional, not only people are having political trust deficit also, people are having emotional trust deficit in the personal relationships also. People are having a trust deficit because of the presence of social media and AI technology, right? We have entered into the post-truth era of democracy. So you have to keep in mind those, whatever, if you pick up 4 dimensions, then supplement it, what are the consequences of this in the personal situation, personal well-being and for the societal well-being. For example, if I pick up the technological dimension over here, right, is plagued by trust deficit. Technology is leading to spread of the false news. If I say this, there's a trust deficit between what the media is projecting and what the citizen is learning. This trust deficit. Personal Personal well-being, how news is going to affect me. If you hear any news for a long time, you keep thinking about it, right? And then you invest your so much of energy thinking about it that then you later decide that this was a false news, the trust deficit which the media had created, right? So personally, it is killing your time, which efficiently you can use, could have used in other ways, right? And it leads you to develop later stages discomfort, or it leads you to loss of trust on media after that. And for the personal well-being, definitely it is going to lead, it is leading to hate speech, it is leading to xenophobia, it is leading to this false news, mob lynching and all. You've seen what happens in society. I think that is it pretty much. There are lots of questions. I really expect that you guys can write it to me. Let's pick up some recent question which they have asked, applied ones. Okay, the role of ethics and values in enhancing the following three components of comprehensive national power vis-a-vis human capital, okay, human power, capital power, and soft power, and social harmony. Okay, so first of all, see how you are going to address this question over here. The value system, right? If your value system is based on the concept of honesty, if your value system is based on the concept of patriotism, that will be definitely seen, this value system will be definitely become a objectified norm, which will be again seen in your ethical decision making, first of all, right? The three components. Okay. So over here, how this patriotism is reflected as the human capital. First of all, you can take example of Jay Shankar, right? How he has been the one, the initial, previously the ex-IFS officer, how as a human capital he has served the nation. Okay. Second, how as soft power in today's context he has been leading to interconnectivity, right, between the various nations, right? And how ultimately it has led to the concept of social harmony, presenting India at a global stage on its principles of Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, right? Comprehensive national power. Is it clear? Another example you can pick up over here is International Solar Alliance of India. You have to think in multiple dimensions, right? How International Solar Alliance is like human capital, first of all, because a lot of, because the headquarters is in Gurgaon, right? Lot of employment is generated, human capital resource is being used over, in India, right? First of all, this human capital is used from India. Second, soft power. It is now, I think currently last I read was 123 members we had in International Solar Alliance. Angola was the 123rd member. Last time the current affairs I was reading. So soft power, it is leading to connectivity in the climate sense between the various developed and developing nation. India is being shown as a leader, promising its commitment or INDCs that it did in Paris Climate Summit. Is it clear? And how it is leading to social harmony? It is leading to climate justice, right? Education is not, similarly, various such examples you can pick over here, right? You can think in multiple dimensions. Education is not injunction. It is not something which is taught. It is an effective and persuasive tool for all-round development of the individual and social transformation, right? Why they have asked this? Because you had to discuss about the national education policy over here, which had a separate pedagogy, right? Which talked about the grassroots inclusive development, holistic development of the psychology of the child, right? In light of the above statement. Now see, this is 150 marker. So in 20 markers, first you have to introduce the real objective of national education policy, and then you have to tell it otherwise. The current internet expansion has instilled a different set of cultural values. What are these cultural values? Which are often in conflict with the traditional values. Discuss that. So What are the traditional values and what are the cultural values? Why is this important over here? Because first of all, there has been lot of movements. There has been lot of, on one dimension, there has been lot of LGBTQ plus movements which have been across the worlds, right? We have seen that with internet explosion. Recently, my friend, she was in Canada, she was telling that a lady, she moves into the office and she says, where is my cat litter? So basically, there was a situation in the world where people identified themselves as animals, right? And with this internet explosion, with the social media reels, and with everything, this had been going on across the places, mostly in USA and Canada. So this, she identified her as a cat. Now this is basically the kind of new generation rights, right? Now how it is different, from the traditional value system where we had only female, male, and one transgender. Is it clear? Now we are having multiple identity people over here. So again, internet expansion has led to this. Second, first thing we can discuss on this dimension, which immediately comes to mind, cultural values specifically. Second thing we can discuss in the cultural values is cross-cultural. This is one negative example, because again this is of 10 marker, right? So what you can do is, after giving a brief, one negative example and one positive example over here. Yes, with cultural values, we had also seen that initially that at many places, basically in Maori tribes, it was considered that killing of the parents at the age of 60 or 70 was considered a cultural value. But with internet expansion, right, there is spreading of conception of human dignity, and there is change in the traditional value of life system, right? Such examples you can pick and you can supplement. In tomorrow's class, I'm going to pick up the attitude. I hope the crux of the class is clear. From today's class, you must know what you have to pick and what you don't have to pick. In tomorrow's class, I will be discussing on the basis of this value how attitude is formed. Okay, how this whole belief, it leads to change. Okay, we have discussed over here. How this whole belief system, okay, how this whole belief system, it changes, it gets objectified into the value formation in the society. How these value formations, they become the objectified norms in the society, and how this ultimately leads to the formation of attitude in the society. And this attitude is basically a psychological construct about any place, time, or thing. Is it clear? So I'll wind up the class. Please write your answers. I will be personally evaluating them. You can talk to me on Google Meet or on Telegram, wherever there are issues in answer writing.